Intentional Parents. This is DeCaro. I hope that you can see me and hear me. If somebody would just share if they can hear me in the chat box, that would be great. Hi, Wendy. Can you hear me and see me okay? I'm really excited to be here with all of you today. Awesome. Thanks, Wendy. I'll just wait a few minutes until we have more people on, but I'm very excited, and I brought with me today one of my favorite forms of self-care, which is a small candle, angel food flavor. And so I'm sitting in this beautiful smell of angel food cake. So it's a delight to really have that burning in my office as I work. So anyway, Wendy, should I just get started then, or should we wait a few more minutes for others to join? I guess we'll just get started. I'm so excited to share with you today a little bit about myself and some of the things that really helped me to grow and thrive in my own parenting. So I hope the sound is a little better with this. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a heart-centered life and parent coach, an educator, motivational speaker, and a writer. I work worldwide in helping individuals, families, and corporations all over the world to really navigate life's daily challenges. And I'm sure if you're a parent or a person listening in, you know how important it is to be able to navigate the things that come our direction and to really try to find the best way for us to move through things. I integrate a lot of education, consciousness, and mindfulness into my coaching to help individuals and parents to feel empowered as they also are turning and empowering their little ones. Because that's one of the things I believe very strongly in, is that we need to empower these little beings in our midst that we call children to help them grow and thrive in a way that serves them, their spirit, and who they truly are in this world. And I learned that the hard way. And again, I'm going into this because I want you to know a little background about me. I have not come into the parenting realm and into the coaching realm from an easy journey, but just quite the opposite, a very chaotic and very difficult past in raising my two girls. And that has brought me to this particular arena about 6 years ago to really devote my life to helping people move through these challenges, helping people to see their children more clearly and to see what their children are mirroring back to them. When we look at ourselves through the behaviors and the reactions of our children, this is where the learning is for us, because we can see how we are affecting and infecting them with our own behavior. And so through my own process of learning from my children, my oldest being my greatest awakener, I really was able to tap into the conditioning that I had absorbed from my own childhood and how that affected me day to day. So we all come from conditioning. We're all conditioned as young people from the family of origin that's raising us, and whatever that looks like, each family, of course, being quite different. But they all offer us ways in which we take a belief system into our selves, into our bodies, and it's ingrained, it's integrated until we actually choose to do something different. And that's where my deconstruction of my own conditioning took place, and my values of how I wanted to be as a parent came to life, who I wanted to be, what it was about for me, and then learning how to make that happen, which is, of course, challenging in and of itself. So let me just check in, make sure everybody can still hear me. And hello all, so glad that you've joined today. Again, my name is Sue DeCaro. I'm super excited to be here. And one of the things I want to share with you today is really what I call the trifecta in parenting. And once we've deconstructed and we're able to look at ourselves with a little more introspection, I think the next part of that is to really look at what we bring to our day-to-day, moment-to-moment parenting. And that's what I call the trifecta, the mind, body, energy. And these are key elements in taking care of our families, because if we don't take care of ourselves first, then we're basically pouring from an empty cup. There's nothing there. And when we pour from an empty cup, wow, all sorts of things can take place, right? Maybe you've experienced that. I know I have. We have to have something in our tank in order to give. We have to fill the car in order to drive it. Same thing with us. We can't constantly do for others when we feel like we're on empty. So this is the part of ourselves that actually has to come first in order to care for the others. So I wanted to tell you a little story before I actually tap into mind, body, energy, and how they play out. So this is a story that actually began last evening and went through into this morning. I have a 21-year-old, and she is home for the summer from college. And whether you are parenting a 5-year-old or you're quote unquote parenting a 21-year-old, some of the things are very much the same. So last evening we were all watching So You Think You Can Dance together. And my 21-year-old was not comfortable on the couch. And so I offered to move a little bit, and she annoyingly got up and slammed her covers on the floor and her pillows and whatnot and relocated because she was uncomfortable. And mind you, she wasn't feeling well either. And so I said, is there anything I can do for you? Staying in my own lane, saying, is there anything I can do to help you? And she grumpily said no. And the rest of the evening was extremely grumpy. I said goodnight. I actually went down to her room and gave her a hug and a kiss, because we're never too old to do that in my house, and said goodnight. Said, I hope you feel better. Hope you get a good night's sleep. But all the energy that she was putting out and kind of banging around and pretty rude comments back to me, just really short nose, and definitely making it aware that she was not happy. Woke up this morning. I said, good morning. How are you feeling today? Not good. Said, did you have a good night's sleep? Not really. And that was basically all she gave. Now, I could do a few things, and perhaps this story speaks to a lot of you, because our kids do get grumpy. So do we. And they're no different from us. They're just smaller. So I could have actually taken this all extremely personally and really have tried to connect with her and engage with her and solve her issue, fix it. But it wasn't mine to fix. My job, as this is the way I look at it, was to stay in my own lane, to stay in my own mind, body, and energy. And where I was with that was at a high place that I could move through this without taking her energy into my own and integrate it, without being affected by her issues and her annoyance, because she was annoyed, and she's still annoyed. She's off at work today, so I'm not sure how she's doing. But this is what happens. We can absorb someone else's energy. It doesn't have to be a child. It could be a spouse, a friend, and take it on. And part of the trifecta in parenting that I would like to talk about is really about your own mind, your own energy, and staying in that space with your own body to create what you need that serves you. So this is one of the most important things I think of in parenting, because these entities are essential both individually, the mind, the body, and the energy, as well as all together. So let's talk first about the mind. When our mind is all over the place, thinking about all sorts of things, like for instance, if I'm still thinking about what happened last night, I can lose sight of the present moment. I can be living in the past. Oh no, this happened with my daughter and she was so upset and she's angry with me, right? I can live in the past and be completely pulled away from this particular moment. And part of the trifecta is being in this moment. And when we think about all of these things, they don't serve us in this moment. They take us actually elsewhere. And that can create lots of stress. Again, if I go to last night and the annoyance my daughter was holding on to, I could pull in that stress and that energy and make it mine. It's not mine though. And I don't want it because that's yesterday's news. I'm in this moment. I'm here with all of you, filled with tons of energy and honored and extremely excited to be here and talk about something that I'm so passionate about. So I'm here in this moment. When we go to the past or we go to the future, thinking about what could be or what if, for example, what if she comes home today and she's still extremely annoyed? I can sit here and worry about that all day long, right? Or I can stay in this moment because, quite honestly, this is the only moment we have, is this moment right now, the moment that we're all spending together, enjoying each other's company. Well, I'm enjoying yours. So the more we live in the present moment, instead of our thoughts taking us to all sorts of unnecessary stress and worry about what happened yesterday or last week, or what might happen later today or tomorrow, and complicating where we are right now, the less stress we have. When you notice yourself getting caught up in the world of your own thoughts in your head, which we'll do because that's what the mind is here to do, quickly bring your attention back to your breath, to your breathing, the breath in and the breath out. And this is a great way to model to your children and with your children this practice and explain why you're doing it. So when we stop the thoughts and all the craziness that our mind brings to this particular moment of past or future, and we take a moment just to focus on our breath, sometimes closing our eyes and feeling the breath as it enters our nose and then exits our nose, or even enters our mouth and exits our mouth. And we think about the breath only. We're clearing space. We're clearing the clutter to free our mind from the stress of all of those things that I just mentioned that were going on, the past or the future. So another example might be perhaps at 11 a.m., which it is about here now, if we start to think about dinner and then we spiral into concerns about what bedtime is going to look like, perhaps with your young children. And we think, oh, I wonder if my son or daughter is going to go to bed easily tonight. And you bring uncertainty to that and worry about that because maybe last night it was quite challenging. Maybe your daughter is 5 years old and is scared in the evening. So that may be challenging, but going there in your mind and worrying about it in this moment is, again, not something that's going to help you. So this is the time to breathe and focus on other moments, or other methods, I should say, of present moment awareness. So I'd like to share a few. One I shared was the breath, focusing on your breath, and really doing a count if that works for you. Counting your breath as you inhale. Maybe you inhale for 4 and you exhale for a count of 4. And you might have to do this a few times to clear the space. So that's one incredible opportunity in my trifecta of parenting in the mind. The second thing that I use for myself is put your hand on your heart and feel your heartbeat. Do it with me now. I can't see you, but you can see me. Feel your heartbeat. Just feel it beat. It's with us all the time, but how often do we actually feel and connect to the beat of our own heart? This is very grounding. When you feel your own heartbeat, you're paying attention to it, just like when we focus on the breath. And it actually can take you away from the stress of that moment. and bring you back to the present moment awareness, and the awareness that you are breathing and that you can feel this wonderful thing called heartbeat that we sometimes take for granted. So this is another great way to take yourself out of the worry of what it might look like when my daughter comes home tonight, or the worry about what dinner will look like, or putting your 5-year-old to bed. Any particular place that your mind takes you. This is another way, hand on the heart, to bring yourself back to this particular moment. And the last thing that I want to share, which is another great example from my own practice, is gratitude. Gratitude is an amazingly powerful practice. I joined a gratitude Facebook group about 5 months ago where every day we post things that we're grateful for. Most people post about 3. Imagine every day thinking about the 3 things that you're grateful for. They're not big. They're just tiny little things that maybe we took for granted in the past, but now we're focusing on them and bringing gratitude to them and to ourselves. So you don't have to write a long journal entry to be grateful. You don't have to write it all. Simply spend a few moments thinking to yourself, when your mind wanders especially, what can I be grateful for in this moment? And so, for example, for me right now, I'm grateful to be here with you. I'm grateful to be able to share the story of something that just occurred last night that really honors what we're talking about today and demonstrates how important it is to stay in our own mind in the present moment and not take on other people's minds, energies, thoughts, and projections. So when you give gratitude, it helps to relieve some of the anxious feelings about whatever it is that's going on in your home with your family. So I hope that that is helpful, and those explanations are helpful to think about your mind and the mind-body energy trifecta in parenting. So let's talk about our body. Our body is so important for so many reasons. Our bodies need energy and movement, just as our children's bodies do. They need to be fueled and they need to move to keep ourselves healthy and keep that groundedness as part of our daily practice. Getting our hearts beating and the blood flowing energizes and engages the body, our muscles, and of course also our brains. When we sit for hours, we feel exhausted. I know I do. I can't sit for more than an hour at a time. I need to get up and stretch. So whenever you can, think about your body and your parenting trifecta. How can you give yourself a break? How can you get your body moving to make sure you are energizing your container, so to speak, the body, in a way that serves you? Movement in the body is like meditation for the brain. It resets us, and all of us need that movement. It's really important for our health and well-being. So, for example, perhaps you sit with your child for a few hours, assuming that your child can sit that long, and you might feel stiff, stagnant, or really tired. I know when I drive all day, I'm exhausted. It's like the hardest job in the world to sit in a seat and drive all day. The attention it takes and the fact that we're not moving at all. So I wanted to share some easy tips to help you boost your energy from a bodily standpoint in your own parenting. So one is, and these are things that you can do also with your kids, is boost your energy and your body movement by turning on the music in your home and moving with it. A lot of times I make dinner with my music blaring and I'm dancing. I'm having fun. Now, often I'm by myself, but that's okay. You can do this with your children too. They would love to be part of that, I'm sure. Or you can just have a dance party with your kids. When my kids were little, we used to do that often. We just turn on the music and we'd all dance as crazily as we needed to move the body. Let loose, be free, and show your children how to do that too. You're the models for them. They might join you. The second thing that I also like to do is go outside in nature Go for a walk. Sit and watch the birds go by. Again, you're moving to a different location. So that movement to the different location already serves to get our body going. But there's something about nature that offers us so much fuel and so much energy in our bodies and our minds and our souls. Take in all that is in front of you. Watch the birds, watch the colors, watch the trees. Perhaps you smell the grass. Take you all of your senses and engage them. The first 5 senses are so important in bringing in information from our outer world. What we see, what we feel, what we touch, what we smell, and what we hear. So this is great for our kids to do as well, to engage all of their senses. And then this is one that I need to do, and that is when I stand up, I try to do 5 squats. I do forget in some of my daily activities, but setting an intention for our body like this is really key to creating what you want in movement for the container, the body. And so for me, oftentimes when I set the intention, I will get up and do 5 squats. Every time I get up, 5 squats. Imagine how great that feels for the body. As long as we set these intentions, we can move forward in doing things that serve us and serve our body and serve the movement. Sometimes after a few squats, I feel incredible. It's like a reset. I feel like I'm energized again. So it's a really great way to set intentions for your day, set intentions for your body, and really bring energy to that part of the trifecta: mind, body, energy, and parenting. So the third part of the trifecta, as I just said, is energy. Such an important part of parenting, right? How do we create this energy? And there's so many ways to create energy. But again, it's just like filling your own tank of your car. You need to fill your own tank or container so that you have the energy to take care of those in your care, your family. But we also need to conserve energy too. So if we spend a lot of time in our head or analyzing perhaps the story I shared with you about my daughter, or absorbing her energy, or spending a lot of energy myself trying to solve it or fix it or worry about it, that's not serving me, right? That's expending energy where I don't need to put it. So as a parent, it's important to recognize where our lane is and to stay in that lane, to really be conscious of what's ours to hold on to and what's not. The same thing with the 5-year-old who can't go to sleep. If I'm thinking about that at 11 o'clock during my day, I'm spending energy. And that energy is going to take away from me having energy to do something else. So this is where staying in the present moment is really important. It's about noticing your thoughts and where you're spending your energy and your surplus in your day, and bringing consciousness to that. One of the things I like to use as a question for myself is, does this serve me? I ask that all day long. Is this serving me? Is that serving me? And this is where your platter can stay as full as possible in serving yourself as if it's a meal and holding on to the energy that's important for you. So building energy by first being aware of the energy that you put out. And the second part is being aware of the energy that you're putting in, your self-care. Self-care should be at the top of the list for every parent because we can't pour from an empty cup. It is essential to fill or fuel yourself first. It is not selfish. It is selfless. So I hope that you can repeat that yourself. It's not selfish. It's selfless. In order to take care of others, you have to be full. You can't give from what you don't have. So think about all the things that fill your tank, that bring you energy, and momentum. What does it for you? What do you feel when you try different things, and what feels most fueling for you? For me, I like to meditate. I don't meditate because I should meditate or someone else tells me to meditate. I meditate because it feels right for me, and it creates the energy within me that I need for my day, to feel grounded and ready to take on the world. Now, for me, 5 minutes of meditation a few times a day does it for me, fuels me. I don't need to sit for an hour. So again, this is what serves me. If meditation is something that speaks to you, look at what serves you in that arena. The second thing is one of my favorites, a mindful shower. Not just a shower where I hop in and hop out, but a mindful shower, even if it's just for a few minutes. Because I know when you have children, and young children perhaps, it's very hard to find the time to carve out for lengthy showers, lengthy baths, lots of meditation, and all the things you might want to do. So when you take a shower, you don't need a long time, you just need a few minutes. This can be restoring in and of itself, but bring attention to what it is you're doing, to the water droplets hitting your body, the temperature of those water droplets, what that feels like, perhaps the smell of the soap, and your overall cleanliness. Be present, be one with your shower, and engage your senses in what is going on. It's an incredible experience and really offers us fuel if that's something that is part of what serves you. For me, serves me so much. And lastly, again, one of the things that I do, and these are not shoulds, this is just a few simple suggestions of what works for me. So the last thing that I do is I can sit by the window and watch the birds and feel so energized, so joyful. I listen to them sing. I see birds of different colors. I have no idea what kind of birds they are because I'm not into that type of bird watching. I just watch for enjoyment, listen to them sing, and it brings me peace and really helps me to feel full. Now, I also do a lot of movement of my body, but in these particular cases, I'm just sharing with you the few things that help me to fill my energy tank without a lot of work, without a lot of carving out space, just simple, tiny things that make me feel good. Self-care comes in all shapes and sizes. So I'd love to see in the chat box as we continue on, what fuels you? What makes you feel energized? The mind, body, and energy effect is an important trifecta. It's one where each affects the other. The mind can affect the body, which can affect the energy, and it's a circular process. And so really tending to your garden, your trifecta of your mind, your body, your energy is important. Staying in the present moment more than being in the future or the past is also part of this process. Nurturing our bodies, the movement, nutrients even, right? What we put into our body. This helps us to have the energy that we need when we need it to serve us. And when we thrive with energy, imagine the impact that we'll have on our parenting practices and how much better we'll feel, how much more patience we'll have, the ability to listen to our children more clearly without the clutter that's going on in our minds perhaps, and more compassion. I had a client that came to me recently that said she just lost it. She felt like she had no energy to care for her kids. And she was grumpy and growling. And when we talked more about it, summer had begun, her kids are home from school, and her normal self-care routines had gone by the wayside. So routines is the key word here. We need to find things that we can do on a daily basis that work with our schedule and serve us in this trifecta. So I'd love to hear from you. How does your energy show up, or how do you show up with your energy in your own parenting? How does this play out in your family? Do you find that you pay attention to your mind, body, and energy on a daily basis? Or perhaps you pay attention to one, but weren't aware that the other two were important as well? I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to check the chat box here. Routines. Yes, routines. We must find things that we can do on a daily basis. And again, with young children, if you go to the park, you can engage with them. Have you ever gone down the slide as an adult? One of my favorite things to do. Jumped on a trampoline with your kids if you have one nearby. You can do so many things with your children. If your children are young and you are in your care 24/7, you can still engage in self-care processes. It's really just finding what serves you, and it might serve them too. Wendy says taking a walk in nature helps her a lot. Me too. Standing in the present moment. Christina, I love the way you put that. Standing in the present moment. That's beautiful. So there's so many things that really help us to feel energized if we actually pay attention to what's going on. And when my children were young, I was not intentional. I did not have these practices. I ran on empty all of the time, all of the time. And so sadly, I was grumpy, probably impatient, and there was a lot of power struggles that went on in my house. And so I know better now, and my kids are never too old for me to change my ways, just as no matter where you are in this parenting process, your kids are not too old, neither are you. It's never too late to try something new and to bring about change in how we connect with our kids, because that is key. So I'd love to hear from you and hear what your thoughts are. Just to share with you, I am a worldwide parent coach and educator. You can find me at DeCaro, parentcoaching.com, my last name. And I also have a podcast called Conscious Parents, Thriving Kids. And I would love if you would be interested in having you join in. I do share a lot of tidbits there. And they're short little podcasts that you can listen to on a short drive. I do not do lengthy podcast episodes. So they're quick and easy, so you can take away hopefully lots of tips and ideas with you. So what questions or thoughts do you have? Elizabeth says, I'll be intentional about self-care. That's fabulous, Elizabeth. And are there any particular practices that have spoken to you that I've either mentioned or just that have come to mind as you've listened today? I'd love to hear what you would like to do as an intention. What would you like to set? And again, this is another intention, is to bring a beautiful smell to my environment, which soothes me and fuels me. And this is one of my favorite candles, angel food. I can't eat it, but I love to smell it. Right, when the children are young and crave for your attention, can you really do all of this? One or two that work? Absolutely. I love that you are asking that, because there are things. Do we take showers, even with young kids? Perhaps we set them up with a movie, or they're playing in the bathroom while we're showering. You can still engage your senses. You can still go for a walk in nature. Perhaps they're in a stroller with you, but can you still hear the birds sing? Can you still feel the cool breeze on your face? Can you still pay attention to the present moment that you are in and let go of all the clutter that comes to your mind? I think so. I have 2 grandchildren, and I know when I'm with my 4-year-old granddaughter, I can still pay attention to the present moment. Yes, of course, it takes a little more work, but it definitely can be done if we're aware. And I think awareness is the first step. being aware that we want to be present with these beautiful children. We want to be present with ourselves, and we want to fill our cup, and knowing what that looks like to fill our cup. Oh, thank you so much, Abelama. Thank you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I appreciate your comments. It's never too late. My kids are now 21 and 25. My 25-year-old being my greatest awakener. And she was about 16 when I believe I turned a corner in parenting. And parenting is about us. Children are born into this world with these beautiful spirits. And it's our job to help those spirits to grow and thrive in a way that serves the child, not serves us. So oftentimes we come with agendas in raising children. We want to fix this or fix that, right? Like with my daughter last night. Maybe I wanted to fix her attitude, but it's not my attitude to fix, it's hers. But I'm not going to let it affect my attitude. So we need to pave the way for our children to grow in a way that serves them. And at the same time, we need to pave a way for us to engage with ourselves in a present moment awareness, to create that energy and that mind-body connection. So we are fueled and able to bring our best to the situation. So for example, when our children might be fighting, which is a normal behavior, right? To be able to bring our best, to bring compassion, but not judgment, to bring kindness and curiosity of what's going on, but not perhaps being angry and yelling and screaming at them, because that doesn't serve them, nor does it serve us. That would be where I referred to as depleting our energy, right? Taking energy from us that we don't need to expend. So the more we take care of ourselves in this trifecta, and I like calling it a trifecta, you may have noticed that, the more we are able to bring the best of ourselves to our children, our families, and to our life, and to engage in life in a way in which we're inspired or fueled and comfortable, because we have taken care of what we need in our own container, our hearts, our minds, our bodies, our energy. Super important. Right. Parenting is about the parent. It is about our response, our relationship, our connection with ourselves first. We have to connect with ourselves first before we connect with the child in front of us. Who are we? What do we need? What serves us? Where's our agenda? How can we let our child grow and thrive? Do we see our child clearly? Who is this child in front of us? What does this child need? How can I support this child? Not how can I fix this child? But always looking at our children as if they're mirrors to us. Because when our children react in particular ways, it helps us to learn more about ourselves. If they react in ways that we're curious about, then we can look at that particular relationship and conversation that we may have brought to see what it is about what we did that may have created something in our child. And believe me, I asked that question last night. Was there something that I brought to this? But I was fully neutral, totally agenda-free, knew she was angry. She wasn't angry at me. She was uncomfortable. She wasn't feeling well. When we don't feel well, we don't show up as our best selves, right? How can we expect our children to do so? We have to expect the same from them as we see in ourselves, because they're human. They're going to have good days and bad days. They're going to be rude. We're rude sometimes too, probably. But owning it is the difference. Right, Wendy, the more we take care of ourselves in this trifecta, the more we are able to parent effectively, or as best as we can. How can a parent manage energy coming from young children, especially when they disagree with each other and emotions are all over the place? Sylvia, great question. It's their emotions. It's not our emotions. We cannot solve disagreements when people are at their all-time high, when they're in that hyperreactive state. Our children are hyperreactive, they're fueled, they're emotional. We need to help them to find a way to soothe and calm themselves, or they need to find a way. I know that one of my kids, when she was young, would not lock herself, but go into a room, close the door, and cry hysterically. I mean, you would have thought somebody had hurt her the way she cried. But I let it go because she needed to get it out. So we have to let our children express their emotions, obviously not hurt each other, but get the emotional adrenaline out of their little bodies. And then we can sit down with them and have a calm conversation, asking from a place of curiosity, it's two children and they're disagreeing, what happened? And giving each an opportunity to explain their side and offering them a chance to learn how to solve it together. You know, if you have little Jane and little John, little Jane, what might you be able to do to bring some sort of solution to this? And believe me, kids at most ages, I would say 4 and up, can bring some sort of solution. So engaging with our children in a way that empowers them, once they settle their emotions, to come up with a solution from a disagreement is super helpful. Sylvia, I hope that helped your question there, answered your question. Exactly. Depleting our energies when we yell or get upset, we need to remember that. It's not helping us. It's actually taking away from the next moment and the next moment, because we'll have less energy. Our children don't need fixing. The question we can ask is, what does my child need from me right now? Just as we can ask ourselves when we feel depleted, what do I need right now to serve me? Same thing with our children. When we find our children out of sorts, what does my child need from me right now? We must respect our children's emotions. Another great comment. Absolutely. We want them to respect us. We need to respect them. One of the key things I teach all over the world is modeling. Many people will say, my kids don't listen to me. Can you help me make my kids listen, or help me to fix my kids so they listen? Our children will listen, but are we listening to them? Are we demonstrating how to listen to our children? And by demonstrating, what I mean is listen at eye level. Drop everything in front of you. Connect with them, eye to eye, same level, full on present as you listen and engage. Look at them. Do we want our children to look at us when we talk? I want my kids and my husband to look at me when I talk, so I know they hear me. And yet, not everyone does. So the more we model that in our own lives and model what we want to see in our children, want to see more respect? Offer more respect. Be the change you wish to be or wish to see, right? Be the change you wish to see. Show up with more of it, and you'll see a shift in your children and your family. And if you're in the middle of something, for instance, when my kids were younger, this used to happen to me, where I would be working or typing something in the middle of a thought, and they'd come in and they'd want to tell me something. Well, at that moment, I want to finish the thought or the discussion or whatever it is you're doing. And so I would simply say, you know, I'd really love to hear you. So could you give me a minute just to finish what it is I've started? And then you'll have my full-on attention so I can hear what you have to say, because what you have to say is important to me. And so you're letting them know that they're important, that you value what they're sharing, but you need to complete what it is you're in the middle of doing. And you can see the light go on in your child because they know you value them. And that value goes a long way. Every person on this earth wants to be seen, heard, and valued, right? We all want to be seen, heard, and valued. How do we show up for our children in seeing our kids, hearing our kids, and demonstrating that we value them, that they matter? How do we show up? And this is where I'm going to circle back to the trifecta. We have to show up taking care of ourselves first. And when we show up taking care of ourselves first, we're demonstrating that we need to fill our own tank, that self-care is important. And when we model that, our children are learning that. Many families that I work with that put their self-care first, their children are learning self-care practices. Some of the kids will join them in meditation. Some want to join them to go out on a run and to really fuel their bodies with movement or healthy eating habits. If you're really focused on eating healthy and that is part of your fueling and your trifecta and taking care of your body, your children will learn that too. Not because you're explaining how they need to eat and telling them what they need to do, but because you're doing it. So modeling is much more powerful than telling. So, what other questions? Have I missed any questions? If I have, I apologize. Please put them, if you have a question, please retype it if I've missed it. But try to keep this idea in front of you, that everything you do, your children are watching. Not everything you say. So when I was a kid, it used to be, do what I say, not what I do. I can remember my mother saying that, do what I say, not what I do. Today, we can say that to our children, but they're not looking at life that way. Our children are doing as we do and not necessarily doing as we say. So if you want to see more of something, that's a mirror for you. If your children aren't listening, that's a mirror for you. How are you showing up listening to them? If your children are not following your instructions, are you following instructions from them perhaps? Or if they're not following your instructions, how can you empower them to be part of the solution? They're here to guide us. They're here to help us if only we ask. So I'm a big believer that when we empower our children by making them part of the conversation, even the self-care conversation, how can mommy build more self-care? Or how can daddy build more self-care, more time to fuel my own body, to create the energy that I need? Our children might have incredible ideas that we've not thought of. These are brilliant little people. They're just smaller than us, but they're brilliant. So I encourage you, when you're trying to see something, you're trying to find more of something in your family, more listening from your kids, more following through, more respect, more cooperation. Perhaps screen time is an issue. Sit down with your kids and talk about it and ask them what ideas and suggestions they have to bring more of whatever it is you want to see to life. Kids want to be part of the solution. They want to feel powerful, like they have a voice, like they matter. So when we ask them about our own self-care or something else, they can certainly help us to bring change about for our entire family. Modeling is much more powerful than yelling. Yes. Yes, everything you do, your children are watching, even when you don't think they are. And everything you say, they're listening. Not necessarily when you're talking to them, but everything you're saying to your spouse, your neighbor, your friend, the cashier, however you treat people, they're listening, especially when you don't think they're listening. Face may be down into their phones, they still hear you. I'm surprised at all the things my kids picked up on. But that's the nature of childhood. They're going to absorb. They're little sponges. They absorb. Kids want to be part of the solution. Yes, yes, they sure do. And this is where the value comes in. When we bring them in and empower them, they feel so incredibly valuable. When I think about my own childhood, if my parents had asked me to be part of a solution, wow, that would have been incredible. So let's be the parents that we wanted when we were kids. Let's show up for our kids in a way that serves them, that honors them, who they are, what they need, the conditions that help them to grow and thrive, and serve ourselves first. So keep in mind, you cannot pour from an empty cup. The trifecta in parenting is essential. Take care of your own mind, body, and energy. And I would love to hear what that looks like. So please stay in touch with me. Again, you can go to DeCaroParentCoaching.com, or Conscious Parents Thriving Kids on Facebook is a group I have, and share with me, what do you do to take care of your own trifecta? Love to hear your thoughts. Again, thank you so much for having me, Wendy, and the Intentional Parent community. It has been a great honor and privilege to be here with you today and to share some of my incredible passions and loving ideas for bringing this to life. And I hope that these are things that work well in your family and taking care of yourself and putting yourself first on the list. So I bid you all farewell and namaste.